We kick things off with our international correspondent, the one, the only Alex Newman. Alex, thank you for your time today, and we welcome you.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you so much, Duke.
Well, I think if anybody's paying attention, if you are a awake American, not a woke one, an awake one, and you are paying attention to government, it must seem obvious to everybody that we no longer have constitutional controls. We no longer have representative say in what is happening in our government. And the case in point for today, Joe Biden, without any election, without any referendum, without consulting Congress, without having anything to do with mom and dads who pay for these public schools, is imposing more and more trans extremism on school children. Again, supra-governmentally doing this. Talk about that.
Well, it truly is incredible that we're at a stage in our country now where we have a president, and really the president's not making these decisions. His handlers are putting stuff in front of him to sign. But we have handlers of a president who think that they can just completely reshape society using nothing but an executive edict. And so this new executive order that Biden signed this week is mind-blowing in its breadth, Duke. And I think probably the most alarming thing, and there are many alarming components of this, but to me, the most alarming thing is that you don't even have to really read between the lines. It makes the case that not affirming a child's delusions about their gender is basically hurting the children. And so, then that sets into motion all of the consequences for that, where the schools need to then actively intervene. It makes available, it instructs the Department of Health and Human Services to work with state governments to make sure gender affirming care is available to children. And when you read through the fake rhetoric, what they're really talking about here is they want to put children on life altering hormones, puberty blockers, which they claim are reversible, but which are absolutely not. They want to get children prepared for and then give them access to mutilation of their genitals, surgical mutilation of their genitals, breast removal for little girls. It's unconscionable. And what's going to happen, it also wages war against what's called conversion therapy. And they've actually expanded what they mean by conversion therapy. Now, conversion therapy is not just going to a therapist who's going to try to help somebody deal with unwanted same-sex attraction or confusion about one's gender or sex. What this does is it basically casts a very wide net to the point where even telling a child, like, honey, you're actually a boy, or you're actually a girl, you're not a gender or pangender or trigender or transgender, that can be regarded as not affirming them, and then that can be dealt with very seriously by school officials, even child welfare authorities. So very, very dangerous what's happening here, Duke. It's unconscionable.
Yeah, can you imagine any other aspect of parenthood where the federal government says you must agree with whatever your child says, and if you even dare to contradict them, that can be punishable up by losing the child? It's very interesting in your article. You mentioned at one point that the working group that oversaw that is helping the Biden administration invoke all of these new really Orwellian changes is a homosexual and transgender working group. Talk to me about that. Who are the people who are advising our government behind the scenes?
So yeah, one of the things that this order does is it creates this, they've added more letters to it. Now it's called an LGBTQI plus working group. And this working group is going to be overseeing the implementation of this. So they're going to be working with state governments, with educational institutions, with school districts, and with multiple agencies to try to push this agenda all across the country. And, this is going to be in blatant defiance of state laws, right? All across the country, Republican states are passing laws protecting girls' sports. They're passing laws protecting children from this kind of indoctrination. They're passing laws protecting children against genital mutilation and things like this. And so what this working group is set to do, again, the working group on LGBTQI+, I think the Q is for queer, and I'm not sure what the I is, maybe intersex. The Q might be for questioning. I'm not sure. They keep adding stuff to it. But this working group is basically going to be waging all-out war on traditional family, on biblical values, on even on biological reality. I mean, and you made a great point, Duke. Any other issue, everybody would recognize that this is absurd. If my child said they were a walrus, as Matt Walsh pointed out in his book, everybody realizes it would be absolutely insane to suggest that the child is actually a walrus and to start treating him like a walrus. If my anorexic daughter said that she was morbidly obese and needed liposuction, people would regard you as a criminal if you actually took your daughter in to go get liposuction. And yet, if your daughter claims she's a boy, then it's regarded as harmful to the child not to take them to have their breasts removed, not to take them to have their genitals mutilated permanently and disfigured and turned into, a fake new organ. It's unbelievable that we're even talking about this, Duke. It feels weird just to be talking about it, and yet this is what's coming out of the White House right now.
Yeah, and I want to just throw this in at the end. Now do you understand, America? Those of you who think the public school system is a good thing, those of us who dismissed us, who questioned it, because think about this. What is the mechanism in this country? What is the conduit? What is the pipeline that allows the federal government to feed this into our kids, regardless of what Republican governors say, regardless of what laws we pass to ban this kind of stuff? It's the public school system. It's absolutely clear that the public school system doesn't educate our kids, but it has 60 million kids at its disposal, and they feed this stuff through that conduit. This is why your founding fathers made no provision for public schools.
Exactly right, Duke. And, we do have a systemic problem in this country. It's not systemic racism. It's systemic indoctrination, sexualization, confusion, and dumbing down of our children. That is the key issue facing our nation. We've got to deal with it.